Managing creative people, yeah, it's a challenge. Of course it is. It should be. But the thing is, the question isn't managing them. It's managing yourself that's really important because it's not about them. It's about you and what your expectations are and what your beliefs are. And are you giving your teams the respect they deserve to be able to show up in the way that you need them to? As leaders, we're really challenged these days, I think. So many of us are looking at our teams and, wanting the outcomes that we are all projecting at the beginning of every year. We have goals, we have objectives, we have things that we want to get done, we have ways in which we're growing and scaling our businesses. We communicate those needs and we look for ways in which to create check-ins or process or some form of project management that allows us as the leader to be comfortable that we're going to go from A to Z in a process that will get us there. And that makes us sleep better at night. But it's not what our teams need. Because here's the thing. While goals and objectives are important, and we can all agree on that, let's make sure that everybody is clear on what they're heading towards. Our job as leaders is to not tell them how to do it or not manage them in the way in which to get it done. Because actually, we're not very good at it. In reality, my way of getting something done might be very different than the person on my team whose job it is to create the videos or deliver the social media or whatever the outcome is. And so when I get involved in the process, what I do is I slow the whole thing down because what I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, well, we're at A. Okay, what's B? Now what's C? Now what's D? Let's go in this process. My team may not need that, especially if I've got a team of creative people, which I do, and I'll bet you do as well, because in reality, everybody these days has to be creative. That is where our world has gone. Everybody on our team has some creative outcome that they need to deliver. And when you start telling a creative person how to deliver what it is that they need to deliver, I can tell you it's probably not going to get delivered, or if it is delivered, it's not going to be very good. And so what do you need to do? How do you get that creative output in the way that you need it, but giving the space to the creative person or the creative team to get it done? Well, the first thing is you got to trust that they're going to get it done. And I've lived through this in so many different ways. And in fact, I've often been that person. In reality, for me, I don't know that I recognized my creativity until much later in my career. But as I look back, I can see so many times where, maybe we were doing a new business pitch, or perhaps we were doing a presentation to a client, a strategic presentation, or even a research presentation. And my own creativity would slow us down. And I would be frustrated with myself. Like, why can't I get this done? Why am I stuck here? What is going on? Why do I get so stuck in how it looks and not in what the words say? And when I look back and I realize when I gave myself the time, when I just simply took the time and did the thing that I wanted to do in the first place, the outcome was so much better. That research presentation, that creative pitch, that whatever it was, showed up much, much stronger and better when I didn't force myself through a process that wasn't working for me, somebody else's process, or a process that I had adopted because I was told that was the way to get things done. And so first of all, it's understanding that our creative teams, that the people who work for us, they have their own way of doing things. And if you've got the right person on your team, and you'll know if you do, because they've shown up before. They've given you what it is you want, but maybe they don't do it in your timeline. Maybe it comes close to or a little after, but it gets done and it gets done well. Timelines are important, but we have to ask ourselves, is this timeline life or death? Did they miss the artificial timeline that I put on it, but yet meet the timeline that was needed for the success to happen? And those are important because I think when you're working with creative people, they see through the artificial timelines pretty quickly. They know when there's a little bit of wiggle room, when there's somewhere that they can pull from to get, and they'll work with that. And they do that not to spite you. They do that in favor of getting a better outcome. Because what they know about themselves is that they know, A, they need the pressure of a deadline, so many of us do, and B, they also need the time and space to be inspired, to find what it is that they are able to bring to that outcome. So when we live in the world of linear project management, we're limiting ourselves and we're limiting our teams. And what we're able to create is often less than what it could be when we give others the time and the space to find it for themselves. And I know that that is really challenging as a leader because we all have other people we're reporting to, or things that we need to get done, or ways in which we need to, maybe we have a board of directors that we've got to talk to. But this is where it comes down to being really honest with your team. What is the real deadline? What is the real reason you need it? They won't let you down when you are open and authentic with them and they understand what's at stake. Don't hide things from them. Allow them to be part of the process. When you're working with creative people, the thing that I've learned over time, and I've learned even about myself, is that I care more about that outcome often than the person who's responsible for it. And that's true of most creative people. And because of that, they will take every last second that they can possibly garner so that what they deliver to you is at the highest quality that it can be. And so when you trust your team and you give them the real, you don't hide it, and you allow them to do that work and you become involved, because that's the other thing is, rather than managing them, can you be involved with them? Can you help them, inspire them, be with them in some way? You know, working alongside a creative team is really powerful, and it helps you because it helps you then walk away from them the next time, because you get the trust in their process. You see that it's not some crazy willy-nilly, like, I don't know, they, stand on one foot and touch their ear and suddenly they figure it out. That's not what happens. They have their own process. And when you spend the time with them to understand who they are and how they work, you can trust that they'll do it, whatever that is. And it takes the time that it takes. But it will be within your timeline, as long as that timeline is realistic. And one of the things that's really important, because I see this a lot too, is that you end up, especially if you've been working on these linear timelines that have buffers built into them and all of these things, is making sure that everybody is aware of the full process. People aren't aware of where there's overlap or interdependencies. And so they may see the end line, finish line, and go, well, I can deliver to that, not realizing that there are many other things that need to happen along the way. And so having some of those early meetings, like spending the time early on with those goals and objectives and a good overview of the entire process, so everybody is clear on what it's going to take to get something in market or finished or completed or launched or whatever it is you're doing. So everybody has that process in mind, but then allowing people to have the space and time to work their own process so that they're delivering in the way that they need to. And as you work alongside of people through that process, you get to see and create these interdependent teams that work together because they see you with them. And it's not to say that you do the work. As leaders, look, we need to step back. We need to have the space to think, to create, to be, to build our companies and create the alliances that are important to help scale and grow and do all of those things. So our job isn't to do the work, but sometimes our job is to understand the way their teams work so that we can set them free to do that work. And if that's what it takes for you to be able to step away, then I encourage you, do that work. Go and see how your team works. See them late at night, see them early in the morning, whether that's a phone call to say, hey, I think you're doing a great job. Thank you for all your hard work. Or keeping everybody else at bay and saying, you know what? Jane is a little slow today because she's been working like crazy. So give her a break and let her take the day and not bug her, and figure out what your job is in motivating them in their process. Because our job is to keep our teams focused, keep our people clear, and not to tell them what to do, but rather to trust that they understand the end outcome and support them in ways that they maybe even didn't know they needed, and then trust them to get the job done. So slow down and just find your place to get to know your teams. And when you do that, everything is going to change.